That's what that's what we talked about in 2007.
All right, you ready?
One of the things we talked about.
Tracy, you ready?
Yep.
Another 3 seconds, or are we ready?
You are on.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. It just goes to show, when it's controversial, people show up, right? Well, it's good to see everybody here. It really is, because it's nice to see everybody so concerned with our town. All right, so Tracy, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Ascoff,
Present.
Commissioner Allison,
Here.
Commissioner Bonfiglio,
Here.
Commissioner Lucibella,
Present.
Mayor Pugh.
Here. All right, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, everybody, welcome. And this meeting is actually a workshop where everybody has a chance to come up to the microphone and speak on the proposal to change Old Ocean to a one-way road or to any other configuration, or just leave it as is, a status quo. You would be able to come up, speak one time at the microphone, speak your piece, and then we'll move on. It's a 2-hour meeting, so we would like to don't run long, kind of say what you have to say, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people up here who would like to say something. Now, before we start, when I first saw this, the workshop schedule, it said Overview of Old Ocean Boulevard and History by me. So rather than sit here, I'm going to go up to the podium so I can see the thing. So I figured we'd start out with a history of Old Ocean. Problem is, Old Ocean has a long history, so I figured the only history I want to actually put out there is my history with Old Ocean. So that's, I figured the experience is key to some of the conversation here. So what I did, I basically kind of mined some pictures and things, and I just wanted to kind of show everybody the history I have with the town of Ocean Ridge and Old Ocean as a whole. Tracy, would you put that first picture up, please? Okay, that is a picture of me, my dad, my mom, my grandmother, my brother, and my sister at a house at 5109 over here in Old Ocean. It's right there in the corner of Adams Road and A1A. In fact, when I grew up there was an old motel sign. I don't know if a lot of you have been here that long, that actually had neon sign. Imagine neon sign, motel sign here in Ocean Ridge now. Well, that was in 1967. So 1967 we got here, and the beach, of course, was the thing. Old Ocean was a thing. Bushes was here. There was a swamp behind Bushes. You could hear the frogs all night long. The green tree frogs were everywhere. So now you don't hear them at all because the way it is, but that's one of the things we lost. So over the years, I've been picking turtles up when we were kids and bringing them back to the beach. And over the years, I've learned how to do all kinds of things and learned everything about Ocean Ridge from one end to the other. Did the swamps, everything with my brother there. And would you pick the second picture up? That's me with my snorkel gear. That's my sister and my brother. That's in 1972, I think, or 71. And that rock in the background actually is still there. There's still that rock that's right off of the Ridge Boulevard, the entrance to the beach. So I guess my point is I've learned to snorkel here. I've been here. We left and moved over to Boynton in 1976. So in 1976, went to high school and everything else here in Delray and Boynton. Moved back. I bought a house here in 1997. So I've been living here since 1997 as an adult. So I have seen changes as a boy and as an adult for a very long time, 54 now. So it's been quite a trip to see Ocean Ridge change. So my point, I figured as I'm looking around, I see how the town of Ocean Ridge is changing. And I'm not here to change the town of Ocean Ridge, and that's really what I want to impart to everybody. My idea is not to change things. It's to keep them the way they were in 1969. But the only way to do that is to how do we preserve that? How do we make that to where, you know, we want to have the people walking up and down Old Ocean, or be able to have that, this is like a sanctuary town, because let's face it, the town to our west is leaning on us. Okay, and if you don't realize that, the next picture I have here is, go ahead and do the next picture. This was an ad, or this was a article in Palm Beach Post, and it had the top 10 beaches, or the top 20 beaches, and here's the other top 9 beaches in Palm Beach County. 2 of those beaches are here in Ocean Ridge.
What's the date of the picture?
What's that?
The date of the picture?
This was just 2 weeks ago in the Palm Beach Post. So, if we have 2 beaches, now these beaches are, the 2 they talked about is Ocean Hammock Park, and then the City of Boynton Beach Beach. They didn't even say anything about the inlet. So, this is what is happening, and what's happening to us as a town, and what we have as a jewel as our beach and our promenade, Ocean Avenue. So my problem is, I figured, how do I get enough people on board to come here to this meeting to recognize and get together as a town and really think about what's going to happen with people, a lot of folks who are going to come here to utilize our infrastructure, our beaches. Now, the beaches are public, and I'm not saying we should not ban the public to the beaches. What I am saying is that we have the responsibility to take care of the beaches. We have to patrol the beaches. We have to clean up the trash that are each one of the crossovers. That is all on the heads of the people of the town of Ocean Ridge, because that's your taxes are paying for that cleanup. So these are the kind of things we have to talk about. Now, I've heard a lot of folks say, well, there's not that much going on. There's not that much people coming around. And could you do the next slide, please? Okay, the next one is basically the mayor of Boynton Beach saying right to the Palm Beach Post, this is again a couple weeks ago, bring on the development. Now let's talk about Boynton Beach for a second. I don't know if any of you have seen the new signs. What do they have on it? They have a wave, you know? They have a beach that's, you know, teeny. They're advertising the town of Ocean Ridge. I mean, they call themselves a coastal community. It's not a coastal, it's an intracoastal community. We're a coastal community. Do you want to bring the next one on? So what happens is we have development that's growing. Right now, everybody can go across Old Ocean or Ocean Avenue and see this development of 500 Ocean is being built. There's 340 rental units that are going to be rental, not purchase, but rental. Transient folks come in, they rent these places and come out. Where do you think Boynton Beach is advertising to go to the beach? They're going to come over the bridge. I mean, but it's public, and I understand that. However, again, it's the infrastructure part. The next one, please. The next, and that's on Old Ocean. Now, the next, what they're talking about, this again from the Palm Beach Post, is the Winn-Dixie deal they're going to do. There's another, I forget how much it says on there, 382 or 328 rental units again. So if you take the 328 rental units and the 340 other rental units, you add them together, and there's 2 people per rental unit, you have about 1,300, 1,400 people. The town of Ocean Ridge, at its height, is 2,700 people. So you have 2 buildings that occupy half of the population of Ocean Ridge. Where are they going to go? So the point I'm trying to make is that the only way I could figure to bring enough people to take attention, make them aware, start talking about other things in the town, start talking about, hey, what are we going to do, and make an idea, was to make an idea that's so out there that people get upset about it, and guess what? They come to a meeting. Because usually we have like 10 people, 15 people in it. And the last time, let's face it, nobody comes to a meeting, not nobody, but very few people come to a meeting that really like what's happening. I mean, let's face it, last time we had a crowd like this was the sheriff's department. Remember? I mean, it was standing room only. So I guess I wanted to kind of allay the fears of shutting off Old Ocean, turning it into, something that most people don't want to do. But we do need to think about how we're going to calm traffic and keep the town the same quiet sanctuary it is, but also we have to accommodate the foot traffic, the pedestrian traffic that is going to affect us. And no matter how you cut it, it's going to affect us. So how do we maintain our town? We maintain it by doing things like we tried the traffic calming. We have those crosswalks we put across A1A. They were to get across one side of the A1A, but the other point of those crosswalks was to slow the traffic down through the town. Because let's face it, you couldn't even hardly get out of your streets. The other things are signs that we have that flash the speed at you. You're 2 cars behind those people. You see when they're coming over a bridge and it flashes at them, you see the brake lights come on. It works. But these are all things we're trying to do just to mitigate the problem of a lot of traffic, a lot of vehicle traffic, pedestrian traffic. So when you come up and you have your ideas, let's not, we're not trying to tear this place apart. We're trying to more bring it together and to figure out, okay, how do we make this happen? How do we make this to where we want to keep it as it is, so that when we drive down Old Ocean, like a lot of us have, and when you're driving down there and you're behind somebody and they're talking and they're pushing the dogs or the babies or whatever they're doing, and you ever notice the car is the one who gets to sneer at? It's not. They look at you like, I'm sorry, I'm driving on the road. Yeah, you're right. Let me go around. Let me get as far over as I can around you, and you're basically a slalom course.
We have excellent traffic calming.
It's huge, but unfortunately, it's people and dogs. So when you come up and we get into this discussion, that's kind of the thing I want everybody to think about. Is the ideas that really we're trying to get are ideas of how to, and it's very difficult, how to make it to where it stays the way we want it to stay. So that is the reason for the meeting, and that is the reason why I would really appreciate, I really appreciate the fact that everybody came. I mean, I see Earl Jones, I haven't seen Earl Jones, and I can't tell you how long. I can read your letters though, Earl. So when you come up, without further ado, we'll go ahead and start. We have an 8 o'clock stop time. So again, if you come up and you want to just share your views, it'd be great.
Mayor?
Sure.
Say you do what you're thinking about in terms of dividing the road.
No, let me interrupt you that. That was never even that's not even the plan. There was never a plan to divide a road. That's not even, I didn't even know where that came up. I mean, I saw it in somebody's letter that we got in the email, and I thought, well, who's going to divide the road? It's still my idea, the proposal rather, was just to make it one way going, one way from one spot to the next spot. I knew the people in Tropical were not going to do it. I mean, let's face it, you're dumping all the traffic on the Tropical. They're going to come up and we got a petition saying, or you don't want it. Oh, no kidding. But it was a way to have people start talking about it, because let's face it, there is going to be more vehicular traffic on there. It's not cutting the road in half. It's just making it one way. Now, it doesn't have to be one way. You can have it one way just going one way and all the streets open, where you can come in and out, and you make a left, make a right. But it's not cutting the street up like we're dicing it up, where dogs have to be on one side and people have to be on the other. Well, let's face it, most people that walk on Old Ocean have those dealies where on the leashes, where the leash goes all the way across the other side. So I mean, there's the line going across for crying out loud. So that's the kind of thing. It's hard, and it's hard to. All right, how are we going to do this? So that's why I'd like to hear everybody else's viewpoint.
Mayor, just 2 quick housekeeping points for those not aware in the audience. We have a map of the entire corridor mounted on the wall over here, and in particular, it also delineates all the right-of-ways and property lines, and you'll see that instead of being consistent, they come in and out. It's wider and narrower. We also have tonight, in case you don't know, the town engineer is here, Lisa Trepepi. She's going to help us troubleshoot ideas from a technical standpoint if anything comes up that somebody has a question on. Lisa, just wait so everybody knows who you are, because I know you've been here a long time. But so I just
All
want
right,
to make
so-
sure you know those resources are here.
We'll split the audience in half, and how about we go right first, or whoever wants to be first on the right? Yeah, I'm sorry? Well, the original proposal that I put forward was to have the entrance to Old Ocean go up Corinne and then go one way south and go out Tropical and whatever streets are south of that. Now, that does impact Briney, so that is another problem. The other part of that proposal was to actually dead end the streets that abut Old Ocean, such as Thompson, Adams, Beachway, so that the traffic couldn't even get on Old Ocean except that they came up Corinne and came down. I've heard a lot of people say, well, that is a problem because it's going to increase traffic. So, those are all different ideas. It's just an idea. So if there's different ideas, there's,
I'll go first.
well, it's right first.
Oh, right first?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know.
Take 1 second.
Too bad we don't have the microphone.
Do we have a?
Well, because everybody can hear.
Okay. Hello? So my name is Rachel Walker. I live at 5900 Old Ocean Boulevard in the Villas at Ocean Ridge. And I have probably lived in this town since 2008, I think. Something like that, 8 or 9. Didn't look up at my sales report. Anyway, so I'd like to speak to some of the things that you said, Jeff, and you all can time me if you want. And then I want to talk about a couple of other things, okay? So I'll give you my history. I'll give you my history of living in Ocean Ridge. Anyway, a couple of things about the money and the extra cost for all these people coming to the beach from across the way, especially Boynton Beach, that is now apparently advertising that our beach is their beach, although they do have a little stretch that they saved. Anyway, we can certainly apply, I would think, to the state or to the town of Boynton for some support. Okay, Boynton is our fire department.
Yeah, I
Isn't
know, we
Boynton
pay
our
them a
fire
lot of money for that,
department?
too.
So Boynton is sometimes our police department if we need it, I don't know. But, so Boynton could participate if we went to them. That's one possibility, okay? I haven't looked at that, but the last meeting we had about this, I spoke to, I guess he's not here, we have a new town manager, hello.
Hi.
Okay. Well, I spoke to the old town manager, whose name has just left my 70-year-old brain, and we talked about, as everybody walked on the beach, that there should be signs delineating where private property started. I live right at the crossover from Ridge Road. There's a walkway now beside the villas, and a lot of people come over that. They don't know how wide they can go. They don't know if they can go 6 feet from that walkway and put down a blanket and umbrella. And I said to the former town manager, why don't we get an absolute map of every walkover and how much space there is for our neighbors to the west, okay? So I think that is also a possibility if we delineate that. I'd like to say that I think that if we block off the ends of streets, we're just like the wardens who become prisoners in the prison, okay? You stop people from coming in, you stop us from going out. How am I going to get out off of Old Ocean if I can't drive right down Thompson and get the heck out of town if I have a fire I'm running from, okay? So we have to think about blocking our town to people we don't want, or too many people that we don't want, or too many people that want to come here, and making it a block for us, because we will all become prisoners in our own town, okay? We are a pretty, I would say, homogeneous town, okay? So I'm going to talk about my history in the town, okay? And I think at this, the other thing I wanted to say is we have no parking in this town. We have no parking on the ocean. So there's not going to be any cars They'll come over the bridge, they'll drive down the road, and they drive out. Now, they may cheat and stay and do Sunshine. They may cheat and do whatever that new hotel will be, or high-rise, or they may cheat and do PNC Bank on the weekends. We know all the strip places that they can park to walk over, but they're not going to drive over because they can't park anywhere, okay? So I think that issue is moot. Thank you. Okay, so, my, 2 minutes, 1 minute left.
Yep,
My
1 minute.
history in town is that I'm married to a very handsome, very professional, very kind, I'm gonna cry, and quiet black gentleman. And I want to talk about the R word, because I think none of you are admitting, I'm sorry, I won't libel anybody, but I really do think you're talking about the west of us and who lives there still, because they haven't totally gentrified and pushed out the poor people's Boynton Beach. Now, let me tell you something. I have a husband who's handsome and wonderful and kind, and I have a 30-year-old son who has tats all over his body, but he is handsome and kind and professional. And I've had people down this beach when I walk with him look at me and make noises. Now, let me tell you something. Go on my website, you'll see kind, good, nice black people of every economic status and standing, anywhere, and in this city too. You're not going to get the people on Federal who sell cocaine up at Hyperluxo. You're not going to get them. They won't come here. You're going to get some mother with her 2 kids on Saturday who wants to sit down on the beach with a blanket. And I really do believe that we're public, and you really need to open it up to everybody. Let them walk here with their baskets Sunday. Let them come here. What difference? There's nothing to be afraid of. There really isn't. You know, they're just a
Thank-
different color, they're poorer, they may have different values than you,
Thank-
all the people in the West. Let's
Thank you,
talk
ma'am.
about black and white.
Let's not, because you already took up your time.
Okay, I'm out of here. But I just wanted to say that. I really think we need to be honest about what
Thank
we're
you.
doing. We want to keep a unified white town filled with, I don't know, separate husbands and wives.
Okay.
Hi.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're up, Bob.
I'm Bob Weisblut, Sailfish Lane. I'll be real quick. In speaking to people all day, up and down the street, I would have to disagree that this is a controversial issue. I think most people want everything left like it is. If we do have some changes, I have 2 recommendations. The first is to try and get a shuttle service, either operated by Boynton or privately operated with some help, that would go from the Boynton Beach to the 4 high-rise buildings and give people free transportation. And that way you would have 1 bus twice an hour going down A1A, and all those people can come here without cars and get to the beach, the Boynton Beach, and back. Whether it could be a private company with some support or a government thing, I don't know. But that's what I would think would help take a lot of the pressure off. And the final comment I have is, if it winds up being the decision to go ahead and block the streets, I would ask that they be blocked on the A1A side. That way, people who aren't from our town driving up and down the highway won't turn into the town. If they block it at the other end on Old Ocean, there'll be no place to turn around. And they're going to be doing what they do on Sailfish Lane, and that is pulling into people's driveways and turning on people's lawns to get back out. So the chance of someone who doesn't belong in the town coming down one of those streets is greater from A1A than from Old Ocean, although I don't like the idea of blocking it off.
Thanks, Bob. Next this side? Yes, sir.
Ted Ritota, 4 Hudson. I applaud you guys for your thoughtfulness and effort. Unfortunately, I feel that short of building a wall, there's not going to be a whole lot we're going to be able to do. I was involved in this as a teenager in New Jersey, where we tried to keep the public out, and it ended up being a state lawsuit, and it totally backfired. I think our best method of preventing people from coming to the beach is pretty much already in force, and that is putting as strict a limitation as we can on any parking places that they might tend to use. As far as the one-way thing goes, this is very selfish, but I'm going to ask the chief frankly, because I use A1A every day almost. I ride down on my car. He's seen me there in the mornings. I come home from work on A1A. It's just my personal thing. I like to go by the beach and see what's happening with the ocean. And I also bike on A1A. And if you do change it to one-way, does that mean I can only bike one way on A1A? I'm serious. I mean, would I be cited if it does get changed? Old Ocean, I'm sorry, Old Ocean.
Hold on.
Yeah, Old Ocean.
Would depend upon the construction of the roadway and how it is, the final design is, and whether there is a separate pedestrian path or whether it's a roadway. If you're acting as a pedecyclist on the roadway, you have to obey the traffic laws. If you're acting as you see on A1A on a sidewalk and you're pedecycling on a sidewalk, you become a pedestrian. So, for me to give you a definitive answer, I can't do that tonight because I don't know what the plan is.
You guys enforce the one way that's just at the far end of Old Ocean, right?
We do because of the safety issue and because of the design of that road. You are correct.
Well, you gave me a good answer, and I just would like it to be on the record that if it does go one way, I'd be adamantly opposed to it.
Thanks, Ted. Next person, Gary.
Gary Kaczynski, 6000 Old Ocean. I've been living on Old Ocean since 1999, and I've actually seen Teddy drive down A1A for the last 16 years. Or, I'm sorry, Old Ocean. And I love Teddy, he's a good friend of mine, but it's Teddy and others that we actually would prefer not take their vehicle and for no reason drive all the way down Old Ocean every single day and increase traffic on Old Ocean. I disagree with everybody. I think there's lots of things we can do now to try to calm traffic and keep Old Ocean, not maybe A1A, but Old Ocean like it is. So I sent a proposal to the town hall a couple months ago. I would describe it as exactly the opposite of Mayor Pugh's idea, which is we don't block off any east-west roads. We don't make anything one way. But what we do is we stop people from driving the entire distance of Old Ocean. And the way I do that in my proposal is I take, I cut Old Ocean into 3 parts for vehicles only, not for bikes, not for pedestrians, not for dogs. I don't split it in half. But what that enables us to do is every person that lives on Old Ocean, including me, can get there as quickly as possible and leave as quickly as possible without having to drive the whole distance. It actually minimizes the amount of miles driven on Old Ocean exactly because you can only drive on Old Ocean for 1 block and then you're forced to drive off of Old Ocean. It minimizes it. It is equal for all residents on Old Ocean as well as for Ocean Ridge. And I think the overall effect will be you won't have cars on Old Ocean except for those that are making deliveries or going to their homes. So,
Thanks. Thanks, Gary. Yes, sir. And that'll be on a website, that's on our website too, is Gary's proposal.
All right, Greg Van Vliet, 17 Tropical. I was involved with the petition that turned in. That petition compromises most everybody on Tropical with the exception of about 3 or 4 property owners. I've been here since 1987. I run on Old Ocean. I walk a dog on Old Ocean. So I'm familiar with it. And I I like the idea. I like the idea of trying to do something to calm it, but the idea of the one-way after looking at it more and more just didn't gel real good. So I had a list of like objections and suggestions. With the petition we submitted, the people of Tropical were against it. We don't want to see the drive. We already have the problems down there with the traffic. And the other residents and others south of Tropical Drive, because of being one way, we won't be able to go back north, which is part of the problem. And personally, my office is up north. I like to avoid the light at Beachway and Woolbrook. That's the back door. The other thing is we do have the drainage system. I refer to it as the underground swimming pool. And I know somebody's here is going to say, well, it'll handle 100 tons or something. But by directing the traffic or limiting the way the traffic can come in and come out, all the traffic's going to have to exit there. And we've got heavy construction traffic. We've got the property being torn down now, and people went out, told them, get off Tropical. We don't want you there. We've got that underground infrastructure, and we don't need that heavy traffic over it. Will it break? I don't know. Is it subject to failure? You know, a number of years. You know, any bridge is subject to failure. You have to rebuild it. But why take a chance of putting additional traffic on it if we don't need to? The other thing, we already have problems with traffic down there in Tropical. One in particular is we've got parking on the street. We've got parking on the southeast corner of A1A and Tropical, and it's already presenting a safety issue, being that when you pull up to the stop sign, you can't see south. The cars at points in time are parking, you have no visual sight, and the first ones that are going to get hit and nailed there are the bikers, because we have to pull up to the stop sign and creep forward. Donna's the manager. She tried to keep the people out of there, but she works. So that needs to be looked at and remedied too. The other thing, Beachway Drive residents and the peripheral roads off, they're only going to be able to access it from the east and from the south. They can't do it from the north. You've got a one-way, no left turn there. So they're going to have to come down Old Ocean and Tropical and go north, or they're going to have to go down south past Beachway and do a turnaround somewhere. So anytime somebody's coming from the north to access those roads, what are they going to do? That's just going to create more of a problem. Where are these people going to turn around, or how are they going to get around? And don't change Old Ocean Boulevard. That's a good name. Let's see. As far as suggestions, came up with a list of a few of them too. That would be speed bumps on Old Ocean. That could be the best remedy. If we want to slow it down, these traffic calming devices are used in many of the municipalities. You can look at speed bumps and humps.com. They got rubber ones, they got plastic ones, like training wheels, and then to see how it works, and then put in macadam speed bumps later on. If you go over to High Point, which is, okay, I'm getting there. If you go over to High Point, they have speed bumps. Go down Main Boulevard and do a double left, come up South Boulevard. Try to do that at 20 miles an hour, not going to happen. It could, but it's a real bone rattler. Greater enforcement of stop signs on Old Ocean. I don't see a lot of enforcement there. I can see Tropical, they have a place where they can sit back, or Beachway, and watch them. I saw a lady, or not a lady, I saw a vehicle do 30 miles an hour through a stop sign, never even slowed down. I mean, just flat out. So, and the speed bumps could be helped. They put a speed bump at the stop signs, and they aren't going to go over at a high rate of speed. And as far as the Tropical A1A problem, if we could get the police to identify and enforce the A1A state road setbacks, you know, what are the setbacks there? You know, can they be enforced to remedy safety?
You've gone, you've gone a little over.
That's it.
A
I'm
lot
done.
of other people. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
My name is Jim Leiter. I own the house at Anna Street and Old Ocean. So we have a lot of traffic coming there. And of course, if you put restrictions, we'd have even more. And some of the earlier proposals would have cut off the ability to get out, as many people have mentioned. So I don't think that's a good idea. I wonder if signage would help. You know, people maybe ignore signs. I see them come down Old Ocean the wrong way. Heading this way, they ignore 5 signs you've got there, so maybe signs won't help. But if you put something that would warn people that it's a restricted area, I'm not sure what you can say. I've been there 22 years, and there used to be a sign that said residents only. And that probably ran against some civil liberties, politically correct thing. And, but, you know, that might slow down some people. One of the problems I have at my corner is because there's, right next to me, a public access to the beach. So everybody stops, lets off people. I don't mind them letting off people. It's the kids who want to go check the stuff, and they park on my grass, or they block the street many times. It's a real irritant, and I don't know whether your proposals would help or hinder that. But I think something that would discourage people from coming east from there in the way of signage might help. And if you do block the road, I think whoever made the proposal to block it or restrict it at A1A makes a lot of sense, because if people went down that street and then they had to turn around, it would make a big mess. So I appreciate your bringing the issue up, because I think it's a real issue. And I'm glad to see all our fellow citizens have come out to give you a bad time. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Earl?
My name is Earl Jones. I live at 14 Sailfish Lane, which happens to be a dead-end street, not necessarily what you want to have in other parts of town. I've lived in town for 35 years. I've used Old Ocean for 35 years to run, to bicycle, just to cross back and forth. Have never found it to be a problem, with one exception. That was when a gentleman with a great big dog didn't have it on a leash. I was doing about 20 miles an hour on my bike going south. The dog took me out and I went over the handlebars, and I was pretty beat up. So if people keep their dogs on leashes, that's not a problem. Now, there are a couple of problems about dead-end streets. We're going to hear a lot of things about other things. But any of you who think dead-end streets are neat are nuts. Number one, I've had times where it costs me extra because a regular truck can't get in. So they go over to Winn-Dixie, change the stuff, and bring it to my street. Also, one of the nice things on some of the through streets now, this time of year, going left out of Sailfish Lane is damn hard. I mean, I can sit there 2, 3, 5 minutes sometimes trying to make a left-hand turn. If you've got a through street, you can go up to Old Ocean, down to Beachway, and at least you have a signal to be able to make a turn. And then last, on these streets that are this way, we get what I call the looky-lookies. And we get lots of looky-lookies. I'm never out front, hardly, when somebody doesn't nicely come down the street, nice and slow, obeying all the traffic. We have a 10 mile an hour. We say slow, kids. I'm not sure which one's slow. But when they get to the end, they turn around. And invariably, I end up hollering at them, slow down, because they've seen all they want. And they blast back up the street. And any of you that get one-way streets, that's what you're going to see, time after time. Now, I understand, like Ted, I grew up in an area where the beach was, a prime piece of asset, even more than New Jersey. I grew up in California. Court actions go back there for years. California, when I was born, was 14, 15 million people. I think it's 39 million people now. And they all want access to the beach. Things have changed. We're getting more people here in Florida. You're not going to stop them from walking over and going to the beach. It's a fact of life. And I think if you think you can somehow, we're going to end up like Palm Beach. Palm Beach tried to keep people out of their beaches by not allowing them to go to the bathroom. As I understand it, to get additional sand on their beach, they finally had to agree to put a restroom in. And I really don't want to see us do that.
Thank you, Earl. Next on this side, yes, ma'am. Pat?
Thanks. I'm Pat Kropp from 16 Tropical Drive, and of course this has caused a lot of discussion amongst all of our neighbors and friends. But I came up with an idea that I think is plausible, and that is that you have to think about our assets in this little area that we live in. And the asset that is really big is that we have 2 state beaches just a little ways away. So we need better signage for that. Many years ago, I asked the town if they would put up a sign when you come off the Woolbright Bridge, and they put it up just right before the light. And it tells you exactly how many miles it is to each of the beaches. We need a bigger sign at both of the bridges. When you come off the bridge and you come to the stop, then you'd see these pointing to the different beaches that are both directions, the mileage, everything. Bigger than what it is now. But I think that could really be a help.
You know, we did try, just so that idea, I tried to get one on the traffic light. It
Yeah.
said beaches going that way.
No,
And FPL said no because the traffic light wouldn't hold.
no. Well, I mean, like when you
Not
pull up to
FPL,
a stop.
DOT.
I'm
But yeah,
talking-
that's a great idea
I'm
because the
talking
ones we have
about-
now are very small.
I'm talking about the right-of-way across the street where all the bushes are. It's not going to hurt anybody's property values. In fact, I think it would help.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, next on my right. Yes, ma'am. Come on, Rosemary.
Rosemary Peterson, 22 Harbor Drive North. I think if you took a vote here tonight, most of the people would say, leave it alone. I think we're going to have people walking over. We've got 74,000 people in Boynton Beach, and so far, there's not a problem. If we're going to have 800 more, I don't think there'll be a problem. I think they're going to walk over and use the beach. And you're inconveniencing everybody in the town to change the roads. I think if you took a vote here tonight, everybody would say, leave it alone.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Barbara?
Well, I guess I'm in the minority here. I'm siding with Jeff with this. I live right on our Old Ocean, and I've been watching them. Barbara Souther. And I've been watching for years people going up and down the road, and it's such a nice casual walking, riding bike, dog walking place. And when I see 2 cars going against each other, everybody's kind of hustling and rushing to the sides, and it just seems to take away from the feeling of a nice small town and just that whole aura of, this is a beach. And, just having the traffic go it would be inconvenient for me. But for the integrity of the beach and the town, I personally think that it should be one way.
Thank you, Barbara. Yes, sir, in the back.
Chris Curry, 27 Tropical Drive. I've been here 45 years, longer than anyone I've heard so far, I think, except for possibly the mayor. In 45 years, I have used Old Ocean Boulevard in my motor vehicle, on my bicycle, on my feet, with my dog, and in 45 years, I have never yet had a problem. I have never felt threatened by the traffic. In fact, the only time I feel threatened is when I'm driving my vehicle, because it is quite clear who owns Old Ocean Boulevard. It's not the vehicle traffic, believe me. I'm also, I hate to introduce this because I don't really want to be confrontational, but I've also been here long enough that I can remember when a sitting town commissioner referred to the south end of town as Shantytown. And unfortunately, what I'm concerned about is that if you proceed with the plan as certainly as I saw it in the Coastal Star, you are going to end up with streets to the north of us, which are de jure public streets, having bestowed upon them a quasi-private status. And you are going to do it at the expense of Tropical Drive, because you are going to, what the proposal does, and it may not come to fruition, but if you do it that way, you're going to end up with all of the traffic disgorging on Tropical Drive, which is a de jure privately owned street. And further, at the end of Beachway, for example, there is a public crossover. At the end of Tropical Drive, there is a private deeded right-of-way. So what we are doing is we are bestowing quasi-private status on one part of town while removing the real private status in another. It's not going to fly, and you may wish to factor into your deliberations whether or not such a move would be actionable.
Thank you.
Personally, I'm against it. I think we should leave it the way it is.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir. What? Oh, that's,
My name's Chuck McIntyre at 5514 Old Ocean Boulevard, right about the corner of Beachway and Old Ocean. I'm not certain what the proposal is now, or if there is anything at this point. I'm not so certain Old Ocean is the problem. I think the problem seems to be that we want less people having access to the beaches. And if they're building these things, they're going to come. If I see a problem with a vehicle that's going to be a problem is somebody making a right turn off of A1A onto Beachway, and 3 people are walking down there toward that crosswalk, and the car and the people hit at the same time, if I see a problem. But I had heard you thought about blocking off the top of Beachway, and we have a liability issue there. So I'm going to throw something totally different out. There are 4 homes, which ours is one of them, with an Old Ocean Boulevard, but the back of our house is Old Ocean. So if there's an emergency, the emergency vehicles are going to come around and not come to where they need access to get into the house, or delivery, any number of things. And so I would want the town to accept responsibility if someone is harmed because an emergency vehicle couldn't be at the right place at the right time. They can't turn around to get back in if streets are blocked. And the final thing I would say is that we live in a world of computers and GPSs. And once you start blocking things, and GPSs tell cars to go a certain way, it's going to be a major headache. So I just hope we just forget this whole idea.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Dave Westgate, I-16 Hibiscus Drive, Briny Breezes. I want to address the question of the mayor's safety issue, and that would be if the town could put signs up requesting pedestrians to walk on the left-hand side of the road facing traffic. And now I hear talk about Tropical being private. Briny Breezes, I believe all those roads are private. And I live on a small road, and if errant traffic comes down there on my street, they'll get caught on Ruthmary. They'll be in an endless loop. Also, the only lights are Beachway and Cordova. So people would be inclined to go to Cordova to turn left, to go south.
Thank you. Anybody else on the right? Yes, sir.
Charles Kittner, 35 Hersey Drive. I'd like to see at least speed bumps be put in on Old Ocean because there is a lot of excessive speed. And I'd like to see people, whether we walk on the left or the right, but people not to walk down the middle of the street 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 wide. Because you have to remember, it is a street still that Old Ocean is. I'd hate to see one of my neighbors get run over by somebody because there have been a number of near misses that I've witnessed in the last year. And we're kidding ourselves that there's not a problem, because there is. And it's safety. So, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Charlie. Yes, sir.
Mark Hanna, 6400 North Ocean Boulevard. I've been here since 1998. I lived in Shantytown, as Digby Bridges referred to it as, on Ocean View in 98. The one-way street, it is very inconvenient. You have to come in, we had to come into Douglas. I lived all the way at the end, and it was very inconvenient to have to go around. Then I moved to Sailfish, and everything that Earl Jones said is also true. They used to come in slowly, looking, and then when they came back, it was like it was the Indy 500 or whatever race, zipping around that S-curve. I am moving up in the world. I'm next door here now. I'm hoping to get to the north end, but sometime in the future. The one problem is with the one-way street, blocking off access to it. The biggest problem that I've seen, walking my dogs, my daughter's 13 now, walking with her, has been the speeders. And it's been delivery trucks or really residents that are speeding. You see the little sticker on the back of it. The speeding obviously hasn't been enforced in the past. Who's going to enforce the one-way also? But again, someone mentioned too that about making it a rule that pedestrians have to walk on a certain side of the road. It's already in the books. You have to walk facing traffic on that side. And also, what about bicyclists? If you make this one way under state law, they have to obey all traffic laws. That means if I'm biking with my daughter, even though she doesn't like me anymore, she's that age, I'm going to only be able to go one way. You're going to have to swing around. Also, you're going to dump all the one-way traffic onto Tropical Drive is private. That's true. You can't make them permit traffic. They could actually vote and close the end of their street off, and everything's going to go down Ocean View. And I can tell you that was a nightmare living on the end there because people see that hill, and they're going around slowly, very narrow street. They see that hill, and they gun it. It's up around. So it's a bad proposal all around. Leave it the way it is. Enforce the speeding laws and catch some of the speeders. I hope the chief will take that into consideration. But other than that, it should stay like it is. And I don't see a reason for it to be one way. It isn't a very wide street, but if the speeding laws were enforced just like now Pam leaves that car, empty car sitting on A1A, every time I go up to Palm Beach, everybody stops. They don't know whether there's a dummy in the car or if there's a police officer in the car. Remember I said,
Wait, what
that.
an
Everybody
opening
quotes
there.
me, a dummy
Thank you,
or
Mark.
a police officer.
Thank you, Mark.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, last one on this side. Don? You see the mustache?
I'm Don Magruder, 9 Ridge Boulevard, so I'm not even on Old Ocean, and I promised my wife I wouldn't speak, but I'm going to do it anyway. She went home. My proposal is fairly simple, and I think one of the ladies over here talked about signage at the end of Woolbright. I think the easiest thing for us to consider would be at where you come up to stop sign to turn onto Old Ocean Boulevard, is you make the sign say Old Ocean Boulevard Promenade. Local traffic only, 10 miles per hour. And that's really all you have to do. Now, they're either going to pay attention to it or they won't, at their own discretion, but you have said the word promenade, which denotes that it's a walkway, primarily a walkway. I spent a lot of time in Germany with my children, and they have Volkswalks over there. A lot of areas in town where you can only walk. Now, being a tourist in Cologne, Germany, I drove a car down a Volkswagen. I didn't get fined or anything else. I was just politely told that you're on a Volkswagen and you need to leave. And I think that's the kind of enforcement that we would want. Just if you see people that don't belong there, and the police department know who's there, the yardmen, they know who lives there, and if they see people that they don't really think belong there, you just casually stop and remind them that it's a promenade and we want really local traffic only. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you, Don. Yes, sir, in the back.
My name is not Owen Wilson. It is Daniel Hartwell. And I live in the beautiful place of Colonial Ridge. And I have a fantastic view every single day of everybody walking on Old Ocean Boulevard. And I see no problem keeping it the way it is. I love it the way it is. I have heard that you may want to turn it into an actual half promenade and shut down and keep one half one way. If you do that, you're actually inviting everybody to come. Everyone's going to tell everyone, you got to come down here. You can walk. There's no cars on one side. You can, ride your bikes, and you're just inviting slews of people. You might as well turn it into a dog beach again, or a nude beach, which we can take a vote on that later.
Thank you.
But I would say we should keep it the way it is.
Thank you. Nude beach. Matthew's on it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, Nancy, okay, one more on this side.
Hi, Nancy Flynn. I've had residential property in Ocean Ridge since '92. I currently have a home at 5900 Old Ocean since '05. I'm up and down that street, Old Ocean, with a dog and walking. I think things should stay as they are, but speeding is a problem, and being on the road in the dark is a problem with the speeding. Even with a flashlight, they come flying up that road, and you're jumping into the woods with the dog to get out of the way. So, for me, I'd leave things as they are, but I'd encourage speed bumps and maybe more lighting, because it is a problem.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Peter McMullen, and my wife and I have owned property here since 2002, and I've lived here since 2008. And when people ask me why I live in Ocean Ridge, I usually have 12 reasons why it's a good place to live. And one of the key reasons is Old Ocean. Now, I did send a letter, and it was entitled, "If it ain't broke, don't fix it." I understand and somewhat misunderstand that you were considering dividing Old Ocean into two, one for vehicle traffic and the other half for the considerable pedestrian traffic of walkers, runners, bikers, and dogs. Moreover, in considering only an entrance at Careen to the north and an exit Tropical Drive to the south, if I have the concept right, which is I have it a little wrong, I have the following comments. Old Ocean is unique and one of the significant advantages of living on Ocean Ridge. Every day, all day, and into the night, residents utilize the street for a variety of uses: walking, dog or not, running, biking, etc. Vehicle traffic is actually quite light given the parking rules. There is no similar road to Old Ocean from Miami to Jupiter, so it is really a unique piece of property. I have walked, ran, and biked on the road for 8 years. We have friends who have done the same for over 20 years. None of us have ever seen an accident on Old Ocean. This is despite the sharing with vehicles who always, in my experience, cruise at low speeds and obey the stop signs. This is despite the frequent gatherings of people with their dogs that can take up the whole 20-foot road. Old Ocean serves, for those that have been in England, as an English pub, a place to chat with neighbors and friends. This would never work in the same way with half a road. Additional traffic will be created on Careen and Tropical Drive, which the residents of Tropical should oppose and are opposing. Our development, Turtle Beach, borders on Tropical, and we are collectively opposed. When service vehicles are stopped for landscaping and various other services, there is no choice but to park on the street, thus blocking the vehicle behind. So that creates severe congestion of both vehicle and pedestrian traffic on the remaining half. Vehicle traffic is currently very light throughout the day, and I've actually sat down there and counted for a while. And to give up half the road versus the quantity of pedestrian traffic just makes no sense. I understand part of the initiative for this proposal is the large development scheduled for Woolbright and Federal, and a comparable one at Ocean and Federal. Time will tell if that becomes a concern. I could see it adding to pedestrian traffic, but not to additional vehicle traffic. If so, and the road is divided, that would make even more congestion on the half left. The one way in and one way out would certainly inconvenience the residents who need their car to go for groceries and other needs. This would not be efficient to go so far out of the way. Somebody brought this up. In the event of an emergency, the proposal would prevent timely response given the limited egress and exit, which would curtail timely response, particularly important if it was a life-threatening event. I don't know where the initiative for this proposal came, but I do hope it is not a proposal by a few to the detriment of the many happy users. I would look forward to answering any questions and participating in the debate. I am for enlightened government for the populace as a whole.
Thank you. Next on this side. Sure, sure.
Terry Brown, Harbor Drive South. I think the general consensus that we ought to leave it alone. And I appreciate Jeff's historical perspective. I also have a historical perspective. I was born and raised in this county in Lake Worth, and this area was our area, our stomping grounds. By the way, Ocean Ridge, when I was a kid, was not a desirable place to live. It was full of mosquitoes, mangroves, and only winter people along the coast lived there for the most part until air conditioning came in and they started spraying the western communities for mosquitoes. But I will bring up a point about Old Ocean. When I was a kid, you could park on that street. So there has been some restriction on the use of it, which is a good thing. You don't want parking there. And as far as the stop sign goes, I think you could, without risk of being called mean-spirited, you ought to spend a little bit more money getting illuminated better illuminated stop signs so that they are clear. I've seen some people roll right through them. The other thing I would caution people to look at, and perhaps the chief would do this, and I agree that there's going to be more pedestrian traffic and not much more vehicle traffic. But in our neighborhood, people can park during the daytime on the street. There's no signs that say resident only. They have that in Palm Beach. There's no signs regulating there's no signs that post that say you can't park. And people who want to use the beach can pull up into our neighborhood and park anywhere on either side of the road as long as it's not blocking driveways, and go to the beach. Go to Porter Street Promenade, where I go. So that would be something that the future you need to look at. And I know that people park along A1A frequently. So I think that the parking in some of the side streets need to be looked at.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
My name's Gail Bernheim. I live at 5709 North Ocean. And I've lived here 21 years. And I walk my dog. I'm a dog walker. So I do it twice a day at least, or 3 times a day sometimes. So I'm seeing all different people all different times, and I've never had a problem. And when they built the place, that big apartment building on Federal, you know, right at Federal, that big thing.
Promenade?
Yeah. So, you know, the color
Oh,
band.
Casa Costa, that's the other side.
No, right at Federal and Woolbright. Federal and Woolbright.
Yeah, that's where the old costume lumber was.
Right. So anyway, you would think that they built that thing and you would see thousands of people on the beach. I also go to the beach as much as I can. And, you know, you don't. I don't see more people on the beach, on my beach, or walking any more than I did before. And I think people's concern about so many people living on the new place that they're going to build will be so many, but I don't believe it will happen either. And I've never gotten hit by a car. And everyone is really very friendly. And sometimes I can walk at 12 o'clock at night and I feel very, very safe. And I think that we are just lucky to have what we are, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Richard Sush. I live at the Colonial Ridge Club in the Sussex building, and I know there are quite a few people here from Colonial Ridge. And I've been asked to represent them, although some of them may choose to speak. There's roughly 200 residents there, and what surprised me is they're unanimously opposed to this proposal. I would have expected some people to say, no, that's a good idea, but that isn't what happened. Most of the points I wanted to make have already been made. Rather than bore you with that, I'll bore you with a couple other points. I've been to a number of pedestrian promenades in my travels, and all of them are in areas where there's commercial development, and that foot traffic that's there generates business. That's a good thing. So there's no commercial development on Old Ocean, and I'm happy about that. It's one of the charms to me of Ocean Ridge. And so unless we can think of a way to make money off the folks that are going to be walking there, I would say to leave it alone. I'm a town board member in New York. I'm a new resident here. I'm here about a year. I don't yet live here full time. I will soon. But I'm on a town board in a town in New York. In fact, I'm the equivalent, I guess, of the vice mayor. We call it supervisor. So, and I've been doing that for, I don't know, 14 years, 12 years, something like that. Prior to that, I was on a planning board for many years, and I was the village manager. So I've had a lot of experience in this area. So I've been trying to think of ideas too, because I don't like to just come and complain. I like to come up with solutions. Unfortunately, I don't have solutions, but we can work on that, and I'm happy to help you with that. Whatever, not that you're not capable on your own. Basically, I think your constituents don't want you to do this, and from what I'm hearing, and I know that only the people that complain or are unhappy with something are the ones that come out. you're in a position where you're trying to do something with the best of intentions, and it seems like every good deed gets punished. But I'm really surprised at the conversation here today, because in New York it's a lot more volatile. And so it's very, very strange, and it's strange to be on this side of the table. I also heard that there's a possibility that you might want to try this out for 6 months. And I know that if you do that, people sort of get inured to their inconvenience over a 6-month period. And the 6 months would bring us into June or maybe July, and so a lot of people are not here then, and they wouldn't be able to come back and complain. So I don't think that we should do it for 6 months. I think we should either do it or not do it, and of course I fall in the not do it part, but not 6 months. So on behalf of the 200 plus residents at the Colonial Ridge Club, we respectfully request that you reject this proposal, and then let everyone enjoy Old Ocean Boulevard just the way it is. It seemed to work well for us all these years. I have a petition that I'll give to the clerk of a number of signatories who are in opposition, and I know our association president has given you a tract that your attorney should go through. This is incredible. A very detailed list of reasons for our objections to this, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Oh, I didn't even see you back there, Betty. I mean, holy cow. You usually sit out front.
Betty Bingham, 1 East Ocean Avenue. I have some suggestions. First, I'd like to clear up a couple of things. Originally, Old Ocean was a county road, and it was abandoned to the town of Ocean Ridge because they didn't want to keep it up, and that's when all parking was abandoned on Old Ocean. And number two, by the way, my family moved here in 1959. I think I'm,
You win.
The hummock is the last natural wood hummock from Miami to Jacksonville. And I think if we're going to have an onrush of people, we ought to try and get rules and regulations, and we ought to impose fines. I find fines are the easiest way to control people. And then I have one suggestion. Have you ever thought of putting up speed gates? And I think probably 2 on the road would control all the traffic. Speed gates are usually about this high and about this wide, wood, and they're staggered, so cars have to slide and go through. If you have, one thing about them is they can be put in and removed. They're standing, they aren't attached. If you start having problems with speeding, just put up some speed gates. I bet you'll slow traffic down. Let's see. And I think maybe we ought to consider what we would the way we would like to direct people, and maybe try and get Boynton's help. I don't care whether it's in controlling the rubbish. Now, if you go to Singapore, if you drop a piece of paper on the beach, it's $50. So, and believe me, people don't drop paper on the beach. People will pick up their garbage. They will do what they're supposed to do if you have them listed and that there are fines imposed with them.
Thank you, Betty. Yes, sir. That's okay. I think we're kind of winnowing out everyone here.
My name is Yves Moquin. I'm a resident of Ocean Ridge. I live on the Old Ocean Boulevard, corner of Corrine, which is at the intersection of a two-way street at the intersection of a one-way street. Because in case you don't know, from Anna to Corrine, it's a one-way. So if you want to verify certain elements, it would be worthwhile for you to look at how it works when you're on Anna Street, from Anna, on Old Ocean, from Anna to Corrine. It's narrow. Cars are parked on both sides. Trucks take the space. Bicycles go into the one-way, they don't care. Pedestrians with their dogs, they do. And even cars and trucks seem to think that the one-way is not a one-way for them. So I think just looking at that environment, it would explain why we shouldn't make Old Ocean Boulevard a one-way.
Thank you. Sure. Anyone else? Yes, I do. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. I didn't see you back there, Christine. Your hand wasn't high enough.
Excuse me, Christine Schulte, 5 Osprey Court, and I've lived here since '91. So we've seen a lot of things, 25 years. Can I slightly change the topic to hygiene on the beach?
Sure.
Okay. It seems to me that it's time for, I don't know who to give the job to, the 2 managers of the town of Boynton and here, or the 2 mayors to have a long chit-chat over a nice lunch to discuss the fact that they have such a lovely facility of their own, with their own name and all that, a mile north of Beachway. And the residents of Boynton Beach, I assume, pay taxes who live there for that facility. And they have restrooms and all kinds of facilities that we don't have and will never have. And it would be a good idea to encourage the residents to go to their own facility. I don't know why that can be suggested or done, you know. That would alleviate the traffic on our side of the town. They have a much better facility with a lot of things, tables for picnics and the whole 9 yards. It is obvious that we don't charge, we don't have a fee to the beaches, and that's why most of the people come. I've met very nice people coming from the West with, my former golden retriever Hemingway, who left us in June. Everybody talked to me because of the dog, and I learned, I met some very nice people. However, I would like to know, is the ocean, the water in Ocean Ridge tested for bacteria and other?
You're talking about the ocean water?
Yes, correct.
Well, it's tested by the health department, not in Ocean Ridge. Usually tested up the inlet sometimes.
That's what I thought, but it's not tested in Ocean Ridge. Okay. What I have observed for a long time is when I used to sit there with my dog, that people who are not residents, it's obvious, use the dunes as restrooms with toilet paper, okay? I don't think any of us, I don't have grandchildren, would like to have the kids running up and down the dunes, in that situation. So I don't think if we get more people spending all day at the beach, having a good time, those dunes are not going to be pretty. So, I'm not in favor of more signs saying, the restrooms are a mile north. I know the local residents, when they need to go to the loo, they walk back to their home, And I also was very familiar with the dog beach with my first golden, and that became a trash can, therefore Palm Beach County closed it, etc. Now, we don't want to be in that situation in the future with more access. You know, and I'm told that nobody will close that beach. Well, I've also seen people come out of the ocean, this grown adult men, with no clothes whatsoever, with a bathing suit in their hand, and putting the bathing suit on the beach. Well, you know, the point is, let's not explain what they've been doing in the ocean. So the point is, you know, let's just try and keep this beach cleaner than it is.
Thank you, Christine.
Another thing, can we clear the record about Tropical Drive? Because it is a public street, not a private one. It used to be private, and then it was deeded to the town, right?
No, it's still a private road.
It's still private. I thought it was deeded to the town years ago.
No.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yes, ma'am. No,
Hello, I'm Dorinda Burrows, 6013 North Ocean Boulevard. We also have a driveway on Old Ocean, right near Corinne Street. So what I'm hearing are many things that I was going to bring up earlier. So I would like to just encapsulate what I've heard and make some suggestions as to how to look at this going forward. It seems that we do need to enforce more the laws that are currently on the books, and perhaps decrease the speed limit, perhaps maybe look at speed bumps, perhaps increase lighting in the evening, maybe the footpath lights or something at strategic places so that we don't interfere with the turtles. We perhaps need to look at signs, the private walkways versus public walkways that might have been suggested earlier. For every action that I've heard this evening that people have opposed, one thing that has not been discussed is the unintended consequences and the impact that it will have on public safety for fire, rescue, EMT, and needless to say, last but not least, the evacuation routes in the event that we have to evacuate for a hurricane. Wilbrite is an evacuation route, so anything done on Beachway would need to be looked at, I'm assuming, through FDOT and any public safety concerns there. In terms of next steps, I would hope that perhaps you could achieve this through your planning and zoning, where you have a task force of well-meaning individuals who are not just there for their own agenda, but who can speak to the commission and work with committees to work this out favorably for the good of the group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Richard Steer. I live at 40 Ocean View Drive. We've been there for 18 years, and I know that I represent at least 2 other residents full-time who are adamantly opposed to this idea. There's issues on Ocean View and Douglas that are the same as Tropical. It's a one-way circle. We have problems with people driving the wrong way, and also, as Mark Hanna mentioned, speeding on those roads. So I know I was here for the first meeting. I think the main things we want to talk about are repetitive signage directing people coming off of Wilbrite and the Ocean Avenue bridges to the public beaches. I think enforcement is another area. With all due respect to the chief and the great policeman here, when we first moved here, if we stopped our car on Old Ocean for a minute, we had a policeman at our backside. And I don't see that happening anymore. If we're concerned about population coming over from Boynton Beach, then maybe it's time we talk about having a beach patrol officer who's dedicated to that area. That would be an idea that I'd like to put forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much, and we'll move it back to the commissioners. Who would like to start?
I'll start. Oh, you want to start? No, you go ahead. Okay. First of all, I want to thank all of you for coming out. This has been a tremendous community gathering, and it's given us some great ideas how to move forward. I think everybody is very clear. I certainly was when I came here on what direction you want us to take. I'd gotten many letters, many calls, many emails, and I think the majority of the people clearly want to stay with the Old Ocean as it is. However, I think Dorinda has made, and all of you have made, some excellent ideas to improve what we already have. And I think that's where we need to be working. I think the signage can be improved. Definitely the lighting can be improved for those people who like to walk at midnight. I do my exercise and walking early in the morning. But I think also the fact, somebody mentioned that it was kind of like our pub. And it made me think of how often in the mornings I'm stopped by the citizens to discuss the issues. And I never mind the interruptions because it's really the networking and the place that we have that other towns don't have. So I really do want to keep it as it is, but I want to make sure that we make certain improvements and certainly look at all of the suggestions. And thank you for all of you who made plans, spent time doing that. I know you all did it with the same heart, and that's to make Ocean Ridge even better than it already is. So I thank you.
Gail?
Oh, I'll make it short. There were some very good ideas. I've written them all down. I've got 5 in particular. I like the idea of talking to Boynton about a shuttle bus to their beach. I like the idea of trying to encourage the parties that be in Boynton to use their beach. The lightings have been brought up, the signs, speed enforcement, and so forth. I think we've gotten some good suggestions here, and I think it's pretty obvious the way the residents want to go with this idea.
Thank you. Jim?
Hi, good evening, and thanks for coming. Couple of things that struck me that kind of not really on point, but you know, so many people got up here and talked about how they liked living here. And the reason I think that the quality of life is so good is that for the past 20, 25 years, you've had a great commission, you've had a great
Thank you.
planning and zoning board, and a great board of adjustments that, you know, kind of set the rules and regulations. Otherwise, you all be up here screaming, we want change. You're not saying we want change. We want the things to stay the same. And so I think that, I mean, that's the thing that really struck me is that we've got to, you know, we've done things right for about 20, 25 years to get to the point where everybody is here that likes living here and likes the quality of life here. The second thing that struck me was that a long time ago, we decided to go completely residential and non-commercial. And if we hadn't done that, if we had an enclave of commercial, we'd have half the room here saying, we want you to take measures that's going to increase traffic so we get more people spending money here in Ocean Ridge so that we can make more money. And we'd have the other half of the room saying, no, we want to restrict access to Ocean Ridge. We don't want more people coming here. So I think that overall, looking back on that decision, it was probably a pretty good decision to keep Ocean Ridge strictly residential and non-commercial. With all that said, the quality of life is great here, and I've been a resident, I think, since about 1988, so maybe that's, what, 20-some-odd years or so. And I think the quality of life is great here, but we've got to look at, if we want to, we've got to decide if we want to try to restrict access to the beach area and the roadways, because if we don't do it now, we're probably going to have to address that issue 5 years from now, 10 years from now, as more people come to the area. So this is kind of more of a long-term planning thing. I kind of agree with Jeff. I don't think we can sit here and just, you know, say, today we love it, it's great, and then 5 years from now, you know, all of a sudden there's twice the traffic in Ocean Ridge, and we really need to do something about it. If we start addressing that now, you know, maybe we can control it a little bit better. What the answer to that is, I don't know. Maybe these steps, I think, are probably good steps. Signage is good steps, things like that. But I'm not convinced that making Ocean Old Ocean Boulevard one-way is the way to go. We did a study, I think, in 2007.
Right.
I think I was on planning and zoning at that point in time. And it just, that was in response to the Briny Breezes development. Well, even though Briny Breezes did not come to fruition, at some point in time, that plan is going to come back, and it's going to be an economically feasible project, I think. It's going to have an adverse impact on our quality of life, so I think we need to start thinking long-term, maybe not do something this week or this month or this year, but maybe we ought to start talking, maybe an ad hoc committee to start looking at some of these things and exploring some other things we can do besides signage and speed control, and adding a couple of more police to patrol and enforce the laws a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich?
Yeah, also thank you all for coming. I am singularly struck by the thoughtfulness and the research on the comments that were made here tonight. I think that we do come up with some, obviously there's a consensus. First of all, let me compliment the mayor, because he's taken a lot of heat for putting forward a proposal that he knew wasn't going to fly, I believe. He knew it, but he got you here. And he took a lot of heat to do this. And I think he knew it wasn't going to fly simply because it doesn't work at Tropical. We're not talking about for Tropical. It doesn't work at Tropical to move that much traffic all the way down, and at Corinne. If we were going to look at a one-way solution, probably the only one-way solution is to move traffic south and north one way to Beachway Drive, and then out with an island there. But I don't think that there's a great appetite for that either within this group. Still in all, you need to ask yourself, do you perceive an issue? Now, I've heard some of you say, well, we think speeding is the issue. Some of you don't feel that way. Some of you feel that, it's the pedestrians walking in the middle of the road that we need to kind of get them herded over to the side. And some of you feel it's the vehicles in the road. I don't hear good unanimity around those issues. I do know that without a doubt we can do signage, speed bumps, makes sense, that type of traffic calming. I love the idea of, if we could name this Ocean Avenue Promenade, I think that is a spectacular idea, along with signage. Local traffic only, if it were possible, to put those signs back. But I will tell you that, and those are things that we can do and we should take under advisement. I do believe that we have an issue with pressure on our, increased pressure on our infrastructure, on our dunes, on our beaches, and on our staff. And I don't think that it's about restricting people from coming to a beach that is public lands for a large part. But I think that we all talk about Old Ocean as a jewel of Ocean Ridge, and we all talk about Ocean Ridge as Palm Beach's best kept secret. Well, it's not such a secret anymore, but we can still keep that as a jewel if we're all willing to be as open-minded as I've heard people tonight and think out of the box. I do not think that Mr. Kaczynski's proposal should be taken off the table. It's an interesting proposal that keeps everybody moving out of the Old Ocean area in their own immediate vicinities, and protects them from the type of traffic coming in from A1A that we're all a bit concerned about going to that. I'm not saying that it's a solution, but I think it deserves a second look.
Thank you, Rich. All right, well, I just want to say that I said a lot earlier, but I'll say a little more, is that I'm especially proud to be a resident of Ocean Ridge because, I mean, look at the friends and neighbors that are here and the decorum showed, just like the one man said. I mean, everybody has shown that you care about the town. That's the biggest thing. We all care about this town. We all want to see this town remain the same. And we all care about how the future is going to affect us. So I got to tell you, I don't think I'm ever going to stop coming up with ideas. I mean, I had one to have natural gas line through town. That didn't fly. I had one, this was years ago, I had one that I wanted to put water at each one of the crossovers so you could wash your feet. Earl Jones back there said, what, are we going to give them towels and soap next? So that didn't fly. So, the thing is, it's just, I live and breathe this town. And the thing is, when you go through the town, you're always looking for ways to make sure it stays what it is and even enhance the quality of life here. And that's really all we're all doing up here, is to make sure we're keeping the quality of life, and even if we can enhance the quality of life. And that, I think, is our job to do. Now, for you to come out, and actually all of you come out and come here, says so much about this small town. It really does. It says so much about every one of us, that we are involved. And that's such a difference from any other large place. That's why I want to say thank you, everybody, for coming. I very much appreciate all the ideas, and I think that some of these ideas are very well worth it. We did come up, though, there was an idea about footlighting, and that idea was passed 7 years ago. We thought about that, and we had a big ordeal from the turtle people. But they're all great ideas. I want to say thank you very much for coming, and we'll go ahead and see how we can go from here next few meetings. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.
Great job. Great job.
Oh, my gosh.
Do you have something for me?
Very good, thank you.